Good evening and welcome to the news roundup for Monday, February 20. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, probation officers stage island-wide sit-in to protest the government's handling of compensation review. 2 policemen shot and injured on the weekend. Denham Town High School students seen in viral video beating schoolmate charged. Vale Royal talks between government and opposition have resumed. In business, Jamaica on track to realizing its highest import bill since 2011. In the region, PAHO calling for Caribbean countries to strengthen measures to manage chikungunya following increase in cases. Further overseas, U.S. President visits Ukraine for the first time since Russian invasion. And in sports, Jamaica's under-17 boys suffer defeat to Guatemala in CONCACAF Under-17 Championship.
Teach them! Always make sure the message reach them!
Now for the news in detail. Probation officers island-wide staged a sit-in Monday morning in protest of the government's failure to re-engage them in the public sector compensation restructuring process. The over 150 officers, including senior probation officers and probation aftercare officers, reported for work at their respective offices but did not carry out their regular functions. They say this will be so until the government reaches out for a meeting. The protest will significantly impact Jamaica's court system as probation officers play a vital role in the proceedings. President of the Probation Aftercare Officers Staff Association, Karen Davis, says the association met with the Finance Ministry last October but was not satisfied with the package as it would have put members in a, quote, worse off position, end quote. She adds that they wrote to the government on January 9 and to date they are yet to get a response. Davis highlights that probation officers are critical partners in the nation's crime-fighting efforts, arguing that they are not being given the desired respect and recognition despite the fact that they are given very few resources to perform their jobs. Ms. Davis says the association wants to have a meeting with the Ministry of Finance to bring closure to the process. In the same breath, she asserts that the association will not be bullied into signing off on a package that is not beneficial and satisfactory to probation officers. A member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, was shot and injured in St. James Sunday night. According to reports, about 10 o'clock, members of a St. James quick response team were patrolling a section of Barnett Street when a man was spotted near a gas station. Investigators say his actions aroused the suspicion of the police. On approach, the man allegedly pulled a firearm and opened fire, hitting a constable in the right shoulder. It is further reported that the police returned fire, but the assailant fled the scene. Police are probing reports that a man who turned up at a hospital with gunshot wounds is believed to be linked to that attack. And on Saturday, another policeman was shot and injured in front of the Grand Spen police station in St. Andrew. It is reported that about 6:30 a.m. the policeman signaled a motorcyclist to stop for a routine spot check, but the biker disobeyed and opened fire, hitting the cop in the leg. The biker escaped and the policeman was rushed to hospital by his colleague. The Portmore police are investigating the circumstances surrounding a vehicular collision and a shooting incident on the north-south highways on Sunday. The incident left 1 man dead and 4 hospitalized. The police report that about 5:40 p.m., 5 persons were traveling from an event in St. Anne to Kingston in a Nissan Selfie motorcar. The car was intercepted by 3 other vehicles whose occupants reportedly opened gunfire. The driver of the Selfie was shot but tried to drive the vehicle to seek medical attention. He lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a ravine in the vicinity of Caymanas Gardens in St. Catherine. Passing motorists assisted the occupants of the vehicle to hospital where they were admitted. A man known only as Dada of a Greenwich Farm Kingston address succumbed to his injuries. The St. Elizabeth police are probing a robbery and shooting of a businessman in Ballards Valley near Junction in the parish Saturday morning. Preliminary reports are that sometime in the morning, the businessman, a Chinese national, was driving his motor car when he was attacked by gunmen traveling on a motorcycle along the Ballards Valley main road. The businessman reportedly tried to escape but crashed. The gunmen opened fire on the vehicle and hit the businessman before making off with an undisclosed sum of cash. Meanwhile, a councillor for the Junction Division in the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation, Setany Holness, has expressed concern over the spate of robberies and murders in the parish, especially on Chinese nationals. The police have launched a manhunt for a suspect who reportedly engaged them in a gun battle in Ocharea, St. Anne, Thursday morning. A second suspect was fatally shot in the incident and an illegal gun seized. The police say about 11:45, a motor car with the two suspects were spotted in Ochareas and was signaled to stop. However, shots were fired from the vehicle, which sped off in the vicinity of the Ochareas Transport Center. The police took evasive action and returned the fire. The car with the suspects got out of control and climbed an embankment. The driver was found inside the vehicle with gunshot wounds. He was taken to the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. It is not known if the other man was shot. Investigators believe the same car was used by men in the robbery of a dollar trader last Sunday in the town. The two Denhamtown High School students seen in a viral video beating a schoolmate have been charged. They have been charged with assault occasioning bodily harm. The video, recorded on Wednesday, February 15, shows two students repeatedly kicking and slapping a student after instructing him to kneel on the floor. They are to appear in the family court. Head of the Kingston Western Police Division, Senior Superintendent Michael Phipps, says they made contact with the school and the victim regarding the incident. In the meantime, the Kingston Western Police are probing a possible link between feuding gangsters in Tivoli Gardens and Denham Town and the assault of the student. The two students who carried out the assault are said to be of an address in Tivoli Gardens, while the student who was assaulted is said to be from Denham Town. Commanding officer for the Kingston Western Police Division, Superintendent Michael Phipps, confirmed that the police are seeking all the students involved in the incident. The Court of Appeal has reduced the 52-year prison term of convicted killer Jawayne Alexander by 20 years. Alexander will now serve 32 years before eligibility for parole. He was found guilty of the 2011 killing of businessman Neville Hall and his wife Normalyn Campbell Hall inside their Discover Bay St. Anne home. Alexander was sentenced in 2017 to 2 terms of life imprisonment and was ordered to serve 26 years on each term before he was eligible for parole. Those sentences were to run consecutively, which means Alexander would have had to serve 52 years before he could apply for parole. Last December, Alexander's attorneys Robert Fletcher and Sanjay Smith appealed the sentence, arguing that having regard to the facts of the case and the applicable law, the trial judge erred in handing down the consecutive instead of concurrent sentences. The appellate court ruled recently that while the life sentence remains on both counts, Alexander is to serve 22 years before being eligible for parole on count 1 and 32 years before being eligible for parole on count 2. The sentences are to run concurrently and are to be reckoned as having started on April 5, 2017. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Sunday's resumption of the Vale Royal talks is an indication of the country's developing democracy. The Vale Royal talks facilitate discussions on crucial political and policy issues between the heads of the two main political parties, the governing Jamaica Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and the opposition People's National Party, led by Mark Golding. Sunday's renewal of the dialogue was facilitated by the Jamaica Umbrella Group of Churches, and the discussions focused on national security and constitutional reform. Prime Minister Holness expressed optimism afterwards that continued dialogue will facilitate consensus on challenging national issues. For his part, Mark Golding said while there may be disagreement on some issues, this should not be regarded as a hindrance to dialogue, national unity, and effective governance. He pointed out that what is more important is how differences are resolved and how political representatives conduct themselves in articulating their points of view. In business news, Jamaica is on track to realizing its highest import bill since 2011. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica's Statin has reported that $6.4 billion was spent on goods coming into the country for the first 10 months of last year. That figure already exceeds the sum spent on imports for all years leading up to 2022, except for 2019. In 2019, $6.4 billion was spent on imports. For all of 2021, the import bill was $5.9 billion. The $6.4 billion spent from January to October 2022 represents a 33% increase compared with the $4.8 billion spent for the corresponding period in 2021. Statin says this increase was mainly due to the higher costs associated with the importation of gas and gas products, raw materials and intermediate goods and consumer goods. For the month of October alone, $591.6 million was spent on imports versus $558.6 million in October 2021. Global inflation has been influencing the cost of goods and services being imported. In the region, the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO, is calling for countries in the Caribbean to strengthen measures to diagnose and manage chikungunya due to an increase in cases in some areas. It says the warning should be taken seriously due to the higher numbers of susceptible persons and the start of peak transmission season. Chikungunya fever is transmitted by the Aedes mosquito, which is also responsible for spreading dengue and Zika. According to PAHO, in the first 4 weeks of this year, 30,707 cases of chikungunya were reported, as well as 14 deaths. On the international scene, Japan has pledged an extra $5.5 billion in aid to Ukraine as the first anniversary of the war breaking out approaches this week. The Office of the Prime Minister of Japan says it has already given Ukraine around $600 million and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of emergency humanitarian assistance. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says there is still a need to assist people affected by the war and to restore destroyed infrastructure. In the meantime, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has hailed the visit of U.S. President Joe Biden as the most significant visit in Ukrainian-American history. President Biden made a surprise visit to Kyiv in his first to Ukraine since Russia invaded almost a year ago. It comes as the anniversary of Russia's invasion approaches on February 24. Biden said the United States would stand with Ukraine, quote, for as long as it takes, end quote, and praised their fighting, which he dubbed heroic. He is due to begin a 3-day visit to Poland. Jamaica's Under-17 Boys World Cup hopes came to an end on Saturday after suffering a 2-1 defeat to Guatemala in their CONCACAF Under-17 Championship round of 16 game. Guatemala opened the scoring in the 32nd minute, but the young Reggae Boys struck back in the 54th minute. Guatemala then scored again in the 77th minute. The wait now continues for Jamaica as they will miss an opportunity to qualify for the Under-17 World Cup for the 5th tournament in a row. The last time that Jamaica made the Under-17 World Cup was 2011. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. Have a good evening and see you next time.
Teach them! Hey, yo, hello! Send the message and make it reach them. It's Teach Them, right here. Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Like the video before you go. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And remember to share the video with your friends and family. And browse the channel for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friends.
Teach them!